listening to Somos Hollywood, a podcast where Latinos in film and TV talk about their recent projects and the ongoing fight for more inclusion in the industry. I mean, we're already here and we're not going anywhere. So yeah, apúrense. We are ready. We are talented. We are Hollywood. Somos Hollywood.
So Monica, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Congratulations on Appalachian Dog. Is this the first film of your career, the first feature film that you've worked on? I was looking at your
IMDb.
IMDb.
Yeah, so it is the first feature film where I've had like a larger like speaking part
Mhm.
or whatnot. I've done a couple others, but like that was like way earlier, like not credited. I was in college and I knew
Okay.
the casting director and they're like, get in for the 1 day thing.
Step in front of the camera and say something, right? Okay.
Yeah, basically.
So tell me about going into something like this. I mean, what resonated with you about the film, about the director you'd be working with, about your character that made you want to be a part of it?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of knowing Colin and Chad actually in college. And Colin was a couple years below me in a conservatory. And I always thought that he was absolutely fantastic. And then I had worked with Chad, who is the producer and editor and cinematographer, worked on a lot of different aspects of the film. But yeah, so I worked with him on a different project. And so anyway, when they started shooting, they just kind of like shot me a text. They're like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this thing for like a day or so?" And I was like, "Absolutely." So they sent over the script, and the thing that I really loved the most about this is Colin wrote this very much like a play. Like it's
Mhm.
like a
Yeah.
play for the screen. So I think that was the thing that captured me the most was the way that he was able to really grasp the moment to moment work with characters that you usually would only see in like a staged production of
Mhm.
something.
Yeah, that's
Um,
definitely what I caught my attention as well. It felt like a play, like I was watching something performed in front of me instead of I was shot before. I was like, oh, I'm at a live staging of something. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So you said that you came in for 1 day, but that seems very easy. It wasn't like you just drove up and to the set in 1 day. You were actually in the Appalachian Mountains, right? Did you go out there?
I was not.
Oh,
So
you didn't
they
have to
did.
go there. Okay.
I didn't, but they did such a phenomenal job set dressing.
Oh,
So
wow.
they were like, "Hey, can you come up to our apartment in like the Upper West Side?" And I said, "Sure." And I walked in and I'm like, "All right, this feels like we're in a cabin in Appalachia." Great.
Oh wow. Okay, that's crazy. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. So the rest of the team they were actually there. I read that they lived in a cabin for a while. It was
Yeah.
like a whole big thing, right?
Yes, yes, yes. I actually was working with them the day before they were about to fly out
Oh
to
wow.
go do it. And so they were walking me through the whole process of like what it was going to be like to be out there and whatnot. And so they did so much research and stuff. And uh, Colin was from North Carolina, and Georgia, who's was the star and one of the producers. She kind of grew up around there, so like was able to really speak to what it was like. And so between the two of them, they brought so much authenticity to both the characters, but also like the entire feeling of the
Hmm.
film.
Yeah. So your couple of scenes, let's talk a little about them. They're very emotionally resonant, I thought. So what did you have discussions with about the directors about what you wanted to get out of those scenes specifically?
Yeah, so Claudette, she's probably like one of the last people within like that town to get married. One of those like always the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of things.
Okay.
So for her to like have Marion come to her home and like agree to like make her wedding dress, it's for her a really big deal because this is what like World War II just ended. So like for wives especially, they were really just reliant on their husbands, and her like boo thing, like he didn't go to war, so she was kind of like, "Where's the ring? What are we doing?" So I think what was really lovely about this character is that um, all of the women are so smart, and although you don't see her doing this like working her husband on screen, Marion
Mhm.
has a line about like women have a way of being able to like convince like the husband like do a suggestion. So she's very smart, and I fully believe that is what Claudette did.
I'm married. I know exactly what you mean. Did you shoot this film before you got engaged yourself or after?
Actually, right before I got engaged, so I didn't know it yet, but my now husband, when I was shooting this, he's from Minnesota, so he was
Mhm.
in Minnesota looking online trying to find rings for me, and I like tried on this wedding dress that Colin and Chad had at their apartment,
Yeah.
and I was like, sending him photos, and I was just like, "It's the only time you're gonna see me in one of these," kind of. And
I
he
wonder.
ended up proposing later that year.
Oh, that's cool. So I'm wondering what was going on, or maybe that triggered something in his head. Wow, she looks beautiful in a wedding dress.
Well,
So your real wedding dress didn't look anything like the one in the movie, did it?
no, no, no,
Not that,
no.
not that old school.
Not that old school.
That's really cool. That's really good. So, where are you talking to me from? Where do you hang your hat these days?
Yeah, so I'm a Brooklyn native, so
Okay.
I'm in Stye right now in New York City.
That's awesome. I'm San Antonio, Texas, so we're pretty far away. But so you're on the East Coast. How challenging is it? I'm thinking it probably isn't to do the auditions, to look for parts, to look for roles from New York instead of being closer to everything in LA. And I kind of roll my eyes at that because these days you don't have to be in LA to actually make movies. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I have an agent and manager, and so they're very lovely. They are the ones really hitting the pavement for me. But being in New York City and really growing up in the like theater world,
right.
I went to LaGuardia High School, and then went to SUNY Purchase for my BFA there. So I've just like really been in the industry for a while, or at the very least have had like friends in the industry and stuff. And so nowadays it's really just that picture over there is my self-tape station. So
There you
you're
go.
looking at the room where the magic happens.
Hey, you have a nice background. You can't complain.
Thank you.
Um, so can you tell me a little bit about your background, your ethnicity? You're Latina,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, I am. So I'm Puerto Rican. My mom and my dad, they both grew up in New York City, but my grandparents are from Puerto Rico.
Hmm. And so being in the industry for I guess you started probably around 2017 or in
Yeah,
the
yeah, that's when I like made my official like transition out of like educational institutions into the industry.
right, right. So what have you learned about the industry in terms of being able to find things, being a Latina actress? I've been doing this for almost 25 years, and I remember at the beginning it was so hard for me to find people to interview because there was nobody in the nobody
Yeah.
nobody there. And little by little, there started being a lot of people, right, to talk to. But I think we're only still 3% of the speaking roles in front of the screen, so there's still a lot of room to grow. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I was just journaling about that actually before our interview. It's
Mm,
it's something I talk about a lot, like especially amongst my circle of people. Like
mm,
I have amazing, talented friends who are Latino, Latina, and they just don't have the same opportunities right
right.
now, or like it's really hard to like crack through that glass ceiling. Um, I mean, objectively, there should be more roles. There are like 19% of the US population. I think we're doing ourselves a disservice by not, accurately representing the beauty that is like our population.
I've talked to so many actors and actresses over the years that have said that they auditioned for something and they say they didn't get the part because the casting director said they're not Latino or Latina enough, or they didn't check a box off that they had in their head. Have you ever run into that yourself, or are you lucky enough not to
Um,
have crossed that slight racism that people
I definitely have. Maybe not as they haven't said it so explicitly,
right?
but it definitely comes up with the types of roles that I'll sometimes get asked to audition for. Um, yeah, I mean, it's interesting because my family, they're all like born and bred New Yorkers, and like they have the real thick New York accent. And then like I popped out of my mom, and I have this very neutral accent. They're all just like, "What happened to this one?" Um, but I bring that up just because it's actually something that going into schools and like getting into the industry and stuff, it's kind of like you have to pay to play, where like I had to really make sure that I was like embracing all parts of like my family and my community and being able to code switch in that way. So that
Mm,
way I could get into these rooms, book some jobs, so that way eventually as these casting directors and whatnot get to know me more, they then can like see, oh, she's not only good for these things, but also what about X, Y, and Z that have maybe nothing to do with her ethnicity, you know?
interesting, interesting. So do you code switch a lot? I mean, when you get back with your family, is it a little bit different and you speak different than you do in the industry? Because my wife does that a little bit. She's from Houston and she's second generation. Uh, so she's very like she used to work as a high school teacher, very proper. But when she gets in front of her family, it can get a little bit crazy.
I would say so. Yeah, sometimes I think sometimes maybe I'm a little gruffer, like with the way I say certain things, but I try my best to just like be my most authentic self everywhere I go, even if it is at risk of my family going, Monica, you're so white. But they say it with love. They say it
Okay.
with love.
Now you've played people named like Michelle Reese. I'm looking at the list, Marisol Perez, Sandra Flores, but then you've also played somebody like Kendall Landry or
Yeah,
Claudette, right? Is
yeah.
it important for you to be able to not pigeonhole yourself into roles that are specifically Latina as well? Because I know it's hard. It's a hard thing to balance, right? As a Latina actress, you want those roles that represent you, but then also you don't want to be only called on those roles. So how do you take that?
Yeah, that's a complicated question, right? Because it's a combo of like the roles that are like I get to audition for, then the roles that people actually cast me in.
Mhm.
Um, I would say that, so I did an episode of The Equalizer where I played a Venezuelan migrant,
Mhm.
and
I
I had complicated feelings about that because I'm like, I'm not Venezuelan. Like maybe this should be going to someone who is Venezuelan, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, but I did have the fortune of being able to interview one of my college roommates' mothers, who's from Venezuela. She's an immigration attorney. And so being able to get such a deep and authentic interview with somebody who's actually from there, it gave
Mhm.
me the confidence to walk into that role, knowing that it was pulling from something real rather than trying to just like make it up myself, you know?
Yeah, no,
Um,
I think that's amazing that you had the fortitude to do that. Not many people are gonna actually do the legwork and go out there and do that. That's awesome. And then did you even imagine a role like that? I mean, how many years ago was that? That was a couple of years ago, right? That you did that
yeah,
one? Could you
yeah.
imagine? It just became so timely now. It's like take a step back and like, what? Oh my God, how did this even happen? We don't have to get into politics at all, but just it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy just thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing about art, right? Like so much of the things that artists are should be writing about and like presenting it is a reflection of culture, but it also like helps shape culture at the same time.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's hard to separate the two because, they're so deeply woven together.
Yeah, definitely. How do you handle yourself when you're in the room with somebody as big as Jennifer Lopez?
So funny, that was actually my very first TV gig ever.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I looked up to J-Lo a lot growing up as like a New Yorker. I'm like, oh my God, a Paloma Boricua, there she is. Uh, so coming out of college and that being the very first role that I ever booked, it was super exciting. I definitely was like, I'm gonna play it cool though. Like, I'm not gonna ask her any questions. Like, I'm professional. But inside, I was totally fangirling.
Wait, so you didn't even ask for a selfie at the end of the production?
No, I didn't. I definitely wanted to, but I was like, I need to be respectful. She's
Right.
work. We're working. We're we're peers on this project.
Right. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then so starting off, it's your first project, so it must have been like, wow, I hit it really big at the beginning.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just gonna go. There was only one way up, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's been slow going, but I'm very grateful for everything that I've gotten thus far because,
Yeah.
it's only going to get better. And I'm like, I'm very grateful that like I've been able to book something every year that I've been out of school and that I've been
Mhm.
working. Yeah, and like the projects that I've been working on, like I'm so appreciative of the fact that I've gotten to work on network television,
Yeah.
like trying to think back to like younger me to be able to tell her, hey, listen, like for your job, you'll also be able to work with Jennifer Lopez and Queen
Thank you.
Latifah, and like you'll be able to be on an episode of Orange is the New Black. Like she wouldn't know what Orange is the New Black is, but
And she can't watch it until she's probably like in high school anyway. So,
yeah, yeah, that's true. But like
um,
how
yeah.
exciting, you know?
No, very exciting, very exciting. I was interested in your name. And it's because my daughter also has four names. So she's always wondering like, why do I have two middle names? Or so I just wanted to know how do you have four names?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. My set technically Monica Ray is my first name, but that never really stuck. So, but Ray is like me being named after my dad. So his name is Ronaldo.
Oh, okay.
Um, but everyone just calls him Ray. So if you ever have an opportunity to see him, it's kind of disgusting how much it was a copy paste situation. So,
Is he you
um,
with are you him with long hair?
I am him with long hair minus a mustache, really.
Well, make sure to add that part. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Summers, I was born on the first day of summer, so my mom felt it fitting to kind of, bring seasons into it all.
Oh, very cool. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
What
have to
about
check
your
that.
daughter? How
Her
did
first,
you go
yeah,
about the naming?
Alora is her first name, and that's named after a princess character from the very cheesy 1980s movie Willow.
I
We
love
so
Willow.
the little princess was named Alora with an E. We just changed it to Alora. Margaret is my mother's name. Noelle, I'm not sure where we pulled that from because she's not near Christmas.
Yeah.
But we wanted something with the ELLE at the end, and then Martinez. So she's always wondering too. We're like, just you don't have to write the whole thing out every time you turn a paper. So tell me a little bit about what you want out of this industry. I mean, you've done a few one turn episodes on network TV. There's a lot of content out there now. There's a lot of platforms. Are you looking that way when something comes across your desk? What do you hope that it is?
Yeah, the ultimate goal for me is to work for my entire life. But I think I would love to be able to work on like a streamer as a series reg on something.
Hmm.
Um, Something like, Orange is the New Black. If I was out of school and being able to actually work on that project, that would have been great. But also like I'm a nerd girl at heart. Like, I would love to be in a superhero movie or a fantasy movie or something like that. Like, that would be awesome. But like, also feel like dramedies are really like my bread and butter. I did a lot of stage work as well, which is, not on IMDb, but a
Right.
lot of the stage work that I've done, it's actually been mostly comedies. So if there was a way that I could like be able to actually bring that with me to my TV film life from my
Mhm.
theater life, I would love to be able to marry those two things.
That'd be awesome. Is there anything that you would say no to? For example, if you're able to work with somebody like Jennifer Lopez, but they wanted you to play a smaller part as the maid or as, something like that, would you say yes to that?
I think it depends on the content and what the script is saying. And also like what the role of that character is. There was one time actually, it was very, very, very early in my career. I had like found out that a casting director was like casting this like big feature film. And one of my buddies, he was like, Monica, you'd be perfect for this one role. You should ask them to audition for it. And so I did. And then they called me in, not for that part, but actually for the maid. Um, And it was so early in my career. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna go for it. Like I have no credits right now. Let me just do it. I go for the audition and then they asked me to do a callback for it.
Mhm.
And I was so disappointed to have to do a callback for a no line part,
Mm.
especially for a maid. Granted, I was very early out of school, and so maybe I had a little bit more arrogance about me.
No.
Yeah, so anyway, with that in mind, I think at this point in my career, I wouldn't necessarily want to be going out for roles like that, but that's
Mhm.
not to diminish them. That's more so just because I think
Yeah.
we have so much more to offer. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I interviewed so many young Latinas, maybe when around the time that Devious Maids came out, and
Hmm.
so many of them were actually like not forced, but they were made to go to those auditions, not because they wanted the part, but because their managers or whoever that was representing them felt like it was important for them to get their foot in the door and for people to see their faces, even though they didn't want that part. They're like, I don't
Yeah.
want to go and do this part, but I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna audition for it just because it might help a little bit. So I think it's interesting. Again, the balance, like I can't even imagine the situation some of them have been in, and I don't uh wish that on you moving forward. So I hope that you're able to circumvent a lot of those things. That could, again, we're getting a lot better at it, right? I don't
Yes.
think if we're Puerto Rican, I don't think it's a problem that we play Venezuelan, but if we're not Latino at all, there's still a lot of Spanish people that think that they're Mexican Americans. So I won't get into names, but yeah, very cool. Well, hey,
I'd be curious to know for you, because you've interviewed so many people, like what would some of your advice be for like those entering this industry based off of like all the cumulative knowledge that you've gathered?
yeah, from Latinos in general, I would just say stay true to yourself. I mean, I totally understand where you're talking about like, hey, I'm just starting. I need to work. I totally understand that. But then sometimes that that just you just get stuck. You just get
Hmm.
stuck there, and if you don't want to be stuck there, then you have to find a way to pry yourself out of that. Like I've talked to so many people where it's like, oh yeah, I play the gangbanger for the first half of my career, but then I made a conscious decision just to say no to those after a while, like after I've built up my credits for a while, and they were able to get out of it, and then other times people aren't. But
Yeah.
to be honest with you, some of those people that haven't been able to pull away from that have made uh, good careers off of it. So I think it just depends on where you see yourself in the industry and if you feel like you can move forward from that. And um, I'll never forget. And his name is slipping my mind right now, but I interviewed an actor who's very prevalent. He's very well known in the industry for always playing the gangster. So I brought that
Mm.
up. I mean, of course, I brought that up. I was like, "Hey, don't you ever want to, branch out a little bit?" And he thought it was he liked the question, but he was like, who do you think I'm gonna play? Like, who do you want me to play? The good doctor? Like, he was naming all these things that he wouldn't fit into really, just with his look.
Yeah.
He's all tatted up, and it's like, I'm not going out there. I'm not gonna be the. He understood that he's not gonna be the leading man, right?
Mm.
But so again, yeah, I think that if you're comfortable in that situation or in that position, then fine, that's great. If you're making a living and raising a family on that income, but if you don't want to be there anymore, there's a way to get out of it, and that's just to you
Say
know
no. Yeah.
to say no. And it's hard at the beginning. It's hard to say no at the beginning. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
hey, Monica, well, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And again, congratulations on your new film, and we can't wait to see what you do next. I'll keep in touch, and we'll talk again.
Of course. Thank you so much for interviewing me. This is
Oh yeah,
awesome.
of course.
Lovely.